And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:08 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wags at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, Gavin Newsom is finally back in California after his week in China. He sat down with Fox 11's Alex Michelson for a half-hour interview where we found out, among many other things, that the president of China, Xi Jinping, is mindful.
So he was teed up for that and was very mindful of what that agenda represented.
You know, I heard a rumor.
What's that?
The plane landed in California from China with Newsom on it, and then an hour later he was hungry to go back for more. Coming up later on in the program, we're going to chat with Fox 11's Alex Michelson, who was on the trip with the governor in China, who got a sit-down, one-on-one interview with Gavin Newsom. We also have some of that sound. We'll play that for you later on in the program. But, Randy, I think it's time now for the breaking news sounder.
That's right, and I have the breaking news sounder right here.
Now, breaking on AM 790 KABC.
Although for this level of stupidity, we may need a breaking news sounder with the women from Reseda.
Okay, let's see if I can do that.
Now, breaking on AM 790 KABC.
I know.
Because, Randy, today's breaking news is news that the average person probably will not believe when they hear it. It's an update on that woman in downtown Long Beach who was sexually assaulted in broad daylight by a homeless man. And, Randy, the district attorney has decided to charge the man with a misdemeanor, not a felony.
That's right. The man who tried to rape a woman in broad daylight in downtown Long Beach, Miguel Angel Avila Figueroa, is facing misdemeanor counts of sexual battery and vandalism in connection with the attack that happened on Linden and East Broadway in downtown Long Beach. George Gascon is slapping the rapist on the wrist.
Let that sink in for a second. A woman who works in downtown Long Beach was walking on a busy street with a lot of people around her at high noon. She was wearing a skirt, and a naked homeless man decided to come up from behind her and sexually assault her, and that is not regarded as a felony in Los Angeles County.
George Gascon decided it's a misdemeanor. Since it's a misdemeanor, the case doesn't even go to the LA County Prosecutor's Office anymore because Long Beach has their own city prosecutor. And the Long Beach City Prosecutor sent a letter to George Gascon begging him to reconsider his decision.
What do you do if you're a city attorney? I know people who went to law school. I know people who became city attorneys. City attorneys, generally speaking, deal with issues like land use. They deal with municipal law. They try to find out if the city is acting lawfully or not lawfully with this ordinance or that ordinance. And for some of the big cities, Los Angeles included, if there are misdemeanor crimes, the city attorney's office will prosecute it. They prosecute people for shoplifting from convenience stores, those sorts of things. If it's your first offense, you're not talking about someone who is a career criminal. Those offices are not built to prosecute sex criminals. They don't have anyone in these offices with any experience prosecuting sex criminals. That's not what they do. You're asking them to go outside their field of expertise because you don't want this pervert in prison.
Here's a little of the letter that the Long Beach prosecutor sent to George Gascon trying to speak his language. Quote, if felony charges are filed, the defendant could face increased incarceration, but it could also result in greater rehabilitation resources through collaborative court and the LA County Probation Department, which are not available for misdemeanor defendants. At a minimum, bringing sexual assault charges at the felony level will more likely ensure the defendant has access to the appropriate treatment while exposing the defendant to additional jail or prison time in an effort to better protect the public.
How about this? I'm not even interested in rehabilitation. I want this guy to go to prison, and I want to tell all the other inmates that he's a pervert, and he sexually assaulted a woman and let nature take its course.
Quite frankly,
this is the district attorney of Los Angeles County, and he regards this as accountability. Just like when that girl, that 13-year-old girl, was assaulted and beaten badly by a grown woman at a McDonald's in Harbor City for no reason. There's still no motive that's been provided by the district attorney's office. We don't know why a woman randomly attacked a girl at a Long Beach, or not Long Beach, I guess, Harbor City in this case, McDonald's. That woman is being charged with a misdemeanor and not a felony. The cops didn't want her charged with the misdemeanor. They said it was felony child abuse. But you turn it over to George Gascon, it's a misdemeanor, and none of these people are going to do any time at all.
And in the statement, Gascon's office was blaming the victim for that case.
That's right. It was the girl's fault. I don't know what the 13-year-old did wrong when she exited a bathroom and got pummeled for no reason, but in George Gascon's mind, maybe because she was covering her face, she was part of the problem.
I can't wait to see what the excuse is from Gascon, why we're not charging the rapist with felony sexual assault. Maybe George Gascon is going to say, like that crazy woman who called in last week, well, she was dressed that way.
Oh, I'm sure that's going to be the explanation.
He couldn't resist himself.
It was willful enticement. If she was just a little bit frumpier and a little bit more overweight, that wouldn't have happened. George Gascon must be off his meds this week, except for maybe the suppositories. Because what he's doing makes absolutely no sense, even for someone as nutty as him.
And this is right after he kicked off his re-election campaign.
That's right. Being as crazy as he is, he still needs to get more votes than the other guy if he's going to win another 4-year term. What normal person wants adults to be able to beat up children without any consequences? What normal person wants a woman to be sexually assaulted in broad daylight with no consequences? Is that how far left this state has gone, where no one has a problem with any of this behavior? It's just accepted and okay? This guy is out to lunch. And what he will do when he runs for re-election is he is going to claim to be an advocate for women, minorities, gays, Jews, all of these groups that are being victimized right now, right and left, and he's allowing it to happen.
I can see why the victim in this case needed to get pepper spray and a taser and Krav Maga, and she's getting a gun because the county is not out to protect her.
That's right. But if you protect yourself with any of those weapons, he will come after you like you're Jack the Ripper. You can sexually assault people as long as you're homeless. You can beat people up and beat children up in McDonald's as long as you're crazy. But if you're middle class, if you're a taxpayer, in the case of the girl, you're going to school, doing what you're supposed to be doing, you need to check your privilege. And if you get out of line, man, he's going to throw the book at you. That's how it works with George Gascon. The only people he's interested in prosecuting are police officers and taxpayers and people who follow the rules. Everyone else can do whatever they want to do, and it's just the purge. I'm sure many of you are hearing this news for the first time. Again, to repeat the headline, the man who was accused of sexually assaulting a woman in Long Beach in broad daylight is not being charged with a felony. He's being charged with a misdemeanor, which includes what, vandalism?
Yes, misdemeanor sexual battery for thrusting into a woman against her will in the middle of the street in broad daylight, and it was captured on film. There really isn't any wiggle room as to what happened there. Misdemeanor sexual battery and vandalism.
How is that vandalism? I guess if you want to plead it down to something lesser, you can get creative. But if you take your member out and you thrust it into a woman against her will, I don't see how that's vandalism. Vandalism is if you go rob a vending machine.
It didn't matter what he did. George Gascon saw, oh, this man is experiencing homelessness. We have to do something to help him. Forgetting about the woman who was just minding her own business that was attacked on the street.
In his perverted mind, and by his, I mean George Gascon, a woman being sexually assaulted on the streets of Long Beach is the same thing as a vending machine being vandalized. Well, the guy was homeless. What's the difference if he wanted a woman who was walking down the street or a Coca-Cola? It's the same thing. Both are refreshing. Do you realize how warped you have to be to come up with that logic? Do you realize how damaged your thought process skills have to be to allow those words to come out of your mouth or to be printed on paper and put it in a public domain thinking it makes sense? I realize he's a village idiot, but do the people around him, are they just as dumb as him? These people went to college. In theory, they have law degrees. That doesn't necessarily mean you're smart, but it means you've read a book at some point in your life. I guess it takes a lot of college to be that dumb. Education does not equal wisdom. And let me tell you, this man is evil. He is a communist. He is an anarchist. And what he wants is he wants the criminals to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. And he believes that we deserve all of this. He believes that woman deserved to be sexually assaulted. And he believed that girl at the McDonald's deserved to be beat up by an adult. Because that to him is equity. This is, from his point of view, this is the same perverted logic that it takes to twist yourself into a pretzel to defend what Hamas did. It's people who are defending terrorist acts. I'm not saying that these acts in particular are equivalent to what happened over in the Middle East, but it is behavior that is totally unacceptable that is being permitted by people who know better.
Well, and if you think about it, the main group that celebrates those attacks here in Southern California is the main group that is getting George Gascon towards re-election. That's right. It's the DSA.
And by the way, did you see this? One of Hugo Soto Martinez's aides just had to quit. I was going to, but I don't think they got fired over making jokes about the Holocaust online.
That's right, making Amy Schumer Holocaust jokes, because that's what city officials are doing with their free time.
It's the same crowd. That's the crowd that now has control over the district attorney's office. And I'll tell you, we took calls last week for a full hour from Jewish listeners who live in Los Angeles who do not feel comfortable with that man as DA protecting them. And you know what? Every time we do the news on this show, every time there's a new story, there is new evidence that leads me to believe that they're right. This man will not protect you. This man is rooting for the bad guys, and this man is a disgusting pervert. Here's what I'd like to do right now at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I want to open up the phones right now to the ladies in the audience. Only women this hour. A woman was sexually assaulted in broad daylight in Long Beach by a homeless man, allegedly. And George Gascon does not believe that's a felony crime. He's being charged with vandalism, and what was the second one?
Misdemeanor sexual battery.
Misdemeanor sexual battery and vandalism. They are treating a woman who was sexually assaulted as if she's a vending machine. Ladies in the audience, it's your turn to react at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to go back and listen to a past episode, That is easy to do.
That's right. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes, or you can get the KABC app, search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. Best way to listen live to this station whenever you're outside the AM radio listening area, and you can listen to all the podcasts of this show. If you wanted to, you could even not sleep and just listen to this show over and over and over again, hundreds of hours. I don't know why you would do that, but you could.
You people are crazy.
And Randy, we're going on the road next month.
That's right. Make sure you save the date. Come see us broadcast live Friday, November 17th at the brand new Gelson's West LA at West Edge on the corner of Olympic and Bundy. That Gelson's opens tomorrow. So Westsiders, go check out your brand new Gelson's. It's going to be gorgeous. But we'll be there celebrating Friday, November 17th at their wine and beer bar and their sushi bar. Have a great time with us. We're going to be there noon to 3, Friday, November 17th.
Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. A woman was sexually assaulted in broad daylight in Long Beach. George Gascon got the case from the police. He decided that it wasn't a felony, it's a misdemeanor. Among the charges, misdemeanor vandalism. Ladies, he looks at your lady parts the same way he looks at a vending machine. Now it's your opportunity to weigh in. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Sharon in Pasadena. Sharon, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I hear this stuff. I'm driving around listening to your show, and I can't even tell you how horrified I am to hear. I'm not surprised, but I'm horrified that this is still happening. And this guy keeps he's going to get reelected. You watch. We tried to get rid of Gavin Newsom. Didn't happen. Tried to get rid of this guy. It's not going to happen. These idiots are going to hire him again. He's going to get voted in again. And you know what? They're all arrogant. Doesn't this guy hear how upset people are about this? He doesn't care. This is just maddening. So as a single woman in Los Angeles County, I don't go out at night. It's, so my life has changed because of these idiots.
And I'm not sure, I'm really not, as to whether or not the people of L.A. County buy into this worldview, or they just weren't paying attention last time around because it was on the same ballot as a presidential election, and he's a Democrat, and the Democrats all got behind him, and it was just as simple as that for a lot of voters. But he's only at 14% in the last poll, which is the danger zone for any incumbent. Actually, that's worse than the danger zone. It's the you're almost certain to lose zone. So I don't know. I remain at least slightly optimistic that voters will come to their senses and dump this guy. But I don't know how anyone, I don't care how left-wing you are, I don't know how anyone can defend this with a straight face.
They can't. But you know what? Like you said, I think the former. I think people are just lackadaisical. They see Democrat and they check the box. Honestly. The masses are idiots.
Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. George Gascon regards sexual assault as misdemeanor vandalism. Ladies, your opportunity to weigh in, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. A woman in Long Beach was sexually assaulted by a homeless man in broad daylight. The case was sent to George Gascon's office. He said it's not a felony, it's a misdemeanor. And among the charges the man's being charged with, vandalism is one of those charges. Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag over at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com.
Rebecca writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. I'm so pissed, and that caller is right. He will get reelected. What we need is a big, strong, patriotic man to take one for the team and vandalize his... Then let's see what they call a misdemeanor.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Kelly in Ontario. Kelly, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good.
Okay, let's talk about it because as far as I'm concerned, that is an absolute felony.
I don't know
Can you
how
hear me
it's
okay?
not a felony.
Yeah, I don't get it. You know what I'm thinking, and I have to think all the time, right? I'm thinking that this man didn't even read any of this, and he just stamps this stuff, and he doesn't even look at it. Because how can anybody possibly do that? That woman was sexually violated by a very sick individual. And once again, it comes back to the homelessness and also our problem with mental health. And it's really pissing me off.
I really do believe it's as simple as, in his mind, homeless good, taxpayer bad. And she's a taxpayer, and the homeless guy can do whatever he wants. And that particular day, he decided he wanted to sexually assault her. So what's her problem?
Yeah, well, and I think it's more deeply rooted. I think that he hates women. And it's a shame because, as you can see, a lot of people are going anti-mother, the word, and all this other stuff. So it's really getting sad.
Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it.
I'm going to go with that line, by the way. George Gascon is a misogynist.
If you think that a woman being sexually assaulted is vandalism, I don't know how you're not a misogynist.
And if you think a little girl getting beat up was her own fault, you also hate little girls. George Gascon hates women. You heard it right here.
Let's go to Skip in La Jolla. Skip, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm a dad. I heard about this. I'm just livid. I think this guy should just be hung by his. Yeah. And I'm just sick and tired of these politicians. And what I really am sick of too, it's not, I'm Republican, but I'm sick of Trump. I'm sick of all these guys who use their power. Just give me a good old solid Republican who just is a nice person, nice God-believing person that doesn't have all this crap, with women and just crap. Sick and tired of these people. Anyways, that's.
What do you say to your daughters? If your daughters ask you about this, how do you explain it to them?
It's so mind-numbing because I can't explain it to them because the world is just a mess, and basically I feel like I need to just put them in chastity belts. I mean, I'm not joking when I say this. I don't know what to do. I really don't. I send them to really good schools. I make good money. I don't know what to do.
Well, thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it. It's one of these circumstances, and I feel like I'm watching a movie. I really do. Because what they do in the movies frequently is they flip the scripts, where they make the guy that appears to be good the bad guy. I don't know if you are a fan of the television show Dexter. I think you watch Dexter, don't you, Randy?
I've seen the first couple seasons, yeah.
Okay. This is going to sound counterintuitive because if you're familiar with any of his other work, you're going to say, how is that possible? But in season, I believe it was 4, they have a different villain each season on Dexter. And on season 4, the villain was the actor John Lithgow from Third Rock from the Sun. In addition to being a comedic actor on Third Rock from the Sun, the guy also has a bunch of CDs that he puts out where he dresses in overalls and sings children's music and that sort of thing. A very kind, generous man. I know people who know him, and apparently the man is just a sweetheart of a man. Well, he played the villain on season 4 of Dexter. And take that man with that presentation and make him the most evil character that's ever been depicted on television. If there is a more evil character, I have never seen it depicted in a movie or a television show or read about it in a book. He was that evil. And part of what was so fascinating about that particular season of Dexter was because you started the season thinking he was one thing, and then at a certain point it clicks and you go, oh my God, this guy is not only not a nice guy, He's Lucifer. How did that happen? How did the good guy become the bad guy that fast? And not only is the good guy now the bad guy, but man, this is a level of evil that I did not know existed in the world. The DA is supposed to protect you from these things. Law enforcement exists to make sure that situations like this don't happen. And when the person who is elected to protect you from it enables it and celebrates it, that's a level of evil that is worthy of a season of Dexter. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. The woman in Long Beach who was sexually assaulted in broad daylight is not going to see her attacker go to prison. George Gascon has opted to charge the man with misdemeanors, including vandalism. Your reaction at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Coming up, let's begin with Chris in Studio City. Chris, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi, John. You know, there's a part of the law in California that if the attorney general feels that the district attorney is not doing the right thing, he can take the case away from him and charge him with the same law breaking that Gascon refuses to do. He can just take it over. But, of course, he's a liberal, probably not going to do anything. But if people like you and other news people interview him and ask him, he might feel enough pressure to do it. And, of course, if he doesn't do it, very unlikely the Attorney General of the United States can do the same thing, but he's probably not going to do anything. But, you know, if you get pressure on these guys, they might take – if I call them up, they're not going to do anything.
Well, I doubt Rob Bonta will ever appear on this program as a guest because I would ask questions exactly like that. That being said, he does media interviews. He will sit down with various reporters and in various forums here in the state of California. At some point, someone should ask him about that. And not just this case, but the girl who was assaulted at McDonald's. Ask Rob Bonta, is that okay to charge that adult female with a misdemeanor and not a felony? And so many of the other idiotic decisions that have been made by the LA County District Attorney's Office under George Gascon. Make Rob Bonta own it. Make Gavin Newsom own it. Make people who are politically ambitious, who would probably privately feel uncomfortable with some of these decisions, make them go on the record publicly.
That's right. By people like you and other newscasters where they can't hide from it. And that way, when they come up for re-election, this is going to be brought up by all the people running against them. And so they'll probably maybe do something so they don't get these questions brought up when they run for re-election.
Thanks so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Joe in Hemet. Joe, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi, I'd like to thank you guys. You know, I'm 71 and raised in New York real quick. My dad raised me great, my mom. The man who called up and said put a chastity belt on and this and that, it's all talk. This last guy, I'm not putting anyone down. It's all talk. We're men. Where I grew up, you touch a woman, you touch a child, you kick a dog. The whole neighborhood came. And you know what? You're in the hospital for 6 months. When are we going to stand together, be men? The law, I go, people, what are you afraid of getting arrested for? The law's not going to punish you if this guy can get away with molesting the young girl on the street. What am I afraid of if we beat him within an inch of his life? I mean, it's time we really stand up, be men. And I'll leave you with one thing. The other day I'm at the grocery store. A young man pulls up in a truck with an American flag, and I say to him, love that flag. This guy walks by and goes, I don't care what nationality, I goes, Viva La Raza, and swats the flag. You know what? I was going to walk over to him, punch him out. The guy walked over, bing, boom, one shot. You guess what? We need some justice. And the guy's wife says, nobody's doing that in front of me. And she said, this guy was out. He says, if you don't love this flag and respect this flag, get out of our country. So when are we going to stand up and be men? Enough talk and committees and baloney. It's all nonsense. It's all talk. We need to get up and start doing something.
Thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jaylene in West Hills. Jaylene, you're on KABC. Hello.
Hi, John. Hi.
Hi.
When I heard the results of the current case, if I'm correct, when George Gascon took office, he, as we know, lowered a lot of things from felony to misdemeanor. But the thing that struck me, one of them, was that when you gangbang a woman, you are now not a felon. You are in misdemeanor territory. I couldn't believe this, and I hope I'm incorrect. But if that's the case, that tells you everything about this man.
Well, a lot of that happened with Prop 57, where they reclassified.
47.
Was it 47 entire categories? Okay, one of the two.
Okay.
Anyway, raping an unconscious person, for example, is no longer regarded as a violent offense. Discharging a gun on school grounds, no longer a violent offense. Elder abuse, no longer a violent offense.
Domestic violence isn't a violent offense.
They took entire categories and it's like the woman from Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery. She twitched her nose and suddenly all of these violent crimes just became nonviolent because that's what we have to do to make sure that no one goes to jail. That's what they did.
Well, John, thank you. And Andy, thank you for bringing all this to the forefront. As usual, I listen to you every day, and you bring up the greatest issues that we are allowed to speak about. Thank you for your, for just the fact that you do this, and you've made such a difference when it came to that terrible vaccine and exposing our CDC woman. So thank you, John, and thank you, Andy. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the call. Let's go to yeah. The fake doctor thanks you too. Oh, it's Halloween. I wonder what she's going as this year. Is she going as an actual doctor?
Next slide.
Let's go to John in Los Angeles. John, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
This all boils down to identity politics because he's the first Cuban American. You know who else was Cuban American? Desi Arnaz. And I think George Gascon is the offspring of Desi Arnaz and Kermit the Frog. Let me explain. Hey, it's George Gascon. How are you? This is my new policy today. That's my George Gascon impression.
That's not bad.
No, that was pretty good. And thank you for not giving out the nickname on the air. I appreciate that.
I'm getting right up to the line. But a day like today, that nickname has never been more appropriate.
Should I break or go to the top?
No, let's keep going. We got 2 more calls. Let's get them.
All right, let's go to Rocco in Saugus. Rocco, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hey, John. Thank you very much for taking my call. You've got Gascon here who you're not – I don't think you're – well, maybe you have gotten to the point here that the guy feels that we, not the oppressed, we are oppressive. The non-oppressed are oppressors. The only way they got their stuff is obviously to oppress the oppressed. And he has to make it even and even it out. And we feel that, in my opinion, I believe we feel that if somebody does something wrong, they have to be punished. And they have to be punished so severely that they don't do it again. I don't care what that punishment has to be. If it's execution, so be it. We have got to stop the person from doing it the next time. I don't care if we really stop the rest of the people. You know, all the silly psychologists will say, oh, you won't stop the other people. Well, we got to start somewhere. We start weeding out the chaff one way or another. I was raised in Long Island, New York, and I came out here. I've been out here since 81, and that's the way I look at the world. That's my worldview.
Well, you're 100% correct. And what they like to talk about is rehabilitation. And rehabilitation is fine, but there also has to be an element of punishment when someone does something bad, because you have to correct their behavior. When someone is taking hard drugs, like what we talked about yesterday in San Francisco, You should not enable their behavior by giving them tinfoil and giving them crack pipes and giving them all of the materials they need to enjoy the drugs. But if you're too afraid to say, stop doing that, that's bad for you, we'll get you help. Here's a rehab facility. Here's someone who you can talk to. Instead of doing that, we just say, no, here's all of the paraphernalia you need. Knock yourself out. And that's a recipe for a zombie apocalypse movie, which is what we're living in. Let's go to Armando in Los Angeles. Armando, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hey, John, how are you? Hey, Randy,
Good.
what's up?
Yo.
So here's what I'm looking at. You said all that, people called in, but no one's really looking at who's running the city of Los Angeles. We have a woman mayor. Who's on the board of supervisors? All women. Who's our council people? Women. I haven't heard a word. What is going on with the people that are in charge of the city who are watching what Gascon is doing? Don't they understand that it's like impossible to function in the city if laws aren't enforced? What is going on?
I don't get it.
Leaders?
I do not get it. And you raise a great point. We have a lot of women elected officials here, not just at the city level. The county board of supervisors, there are 5 women on that board. We have members of Congress, plenty of members of Congress in the state of California who are women, including the former Speaker of the House. They love to talk about how strong they are on women's issues. Well, why not stand up for this woman who was sexually assaulted in broad daylight? Why not say something about that?
I think every single reporter out there, if they get in the face of any of the female members of the city council, the mayor, or any of the board of supervisors, quite frankly, you ask them about this case and George Gascon slapping the rapist on the wrist.
All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour is next. Don't you go anywhere. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.
That's your final warning.